Welcome to Buckets in the Tommy John home studio. I am your host, Jim Turvey. A little bit different host in the host chair today. I brought a couple buddies with me. We threw Matt Moore off the ship. We are the captains now. It is Jim Turvey here. Is Brandon Anderson here? Is Joe Dellera here? BAJDJT. How's it going, guys? This is a very special episode. It's a NBA Finals prop podcast. So we had to get the three of us together. Brandon, I'll lead with you. You said you've got like 14 trillion bets in here approximately. Did you leave anything for us? There's so many bets in here.
I think I have 23 bets in here, and then there are like some adjacent bets within the bets. So yeah, we'll have some fun today. This to me, this podcast is just basically like our group chat come to life in podcast form for an hour. So everyone else, enjoy the group chat. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, this is the truly like the number of bets that I like I'll be during the workday. I look at the phone. There's like 17 bets. I'm like, man, these are really good. Like I got to catch. You guys are definitely. It's appropriate that I'm in the host chair today because I spent my whole day planning out how to bet the Pacers. I just recorded that with Matt Moore. Give that a listen. If you
complete
Joe's
waste of
shaking his
time.
head already. I spent my
I can tell
time.
you how to bet the Pacers. Are you ready? Yeah, okay, that was it. I'm done. I'm done.
I thought you said don't. Is it gonna be how you say it? Joe, how you got like a trillion of these too. What are you most excited for in the finals?
I'm most excited to not hear fucking Reggie Miller, that's for sure. So I'm thrilled about that.
I love that Joe, within the first seconds, has a Knicks adjacent thing.
The only way to do it. So I'm excited to see how this goes. I'm excited to see like the stylistic similarities and see how they play out. And when I say how they play out, I think it's just going to be Oklahoma City destroying Indiana. So I'm curious to see if my like priors are there. I have a preseason future that I gave out and I think we were all on the J-Dub 20 plus points Oklahoma City Thunder, because we were just like, that's a free boost on their finals odds. So it's at 10-1. We're all sitting on that ticket. So I'm happy to have that in my pocket, and I'm excited to kind of hope and see how this goes, and to maybe cash that one for the season.
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually a pretty natural transition, is because we're going to get to all the finals props for sure, but we want to also do kind of an outlook here, kind of set our priors, like you said, Joe, what we're looking at as we come into the series. So Joe, you kind of talked through it a little bit there. You're pretty heavy on OKC. I am the Indy believer. And listen, I said on that, we don't need to rehash it. I don't need to give you the case here. It's that it's plus 500. Gun to my head, I'm clearly taking OKC. Gun to my head at plus 300. I'm not even taking Indiana. But I think 500 is a little too long. So you might see that seep through into some of these bets. It doesn't seep through as much, to be honest, as I thought. I think the ways of getting there are a little bit more amorphic than these bets offer, to be honest. But Brandon, what is your kind of series outlook before we dig into the actual markets themselves?
Yeah, my real take is just that Oklahoma City's defense, I think, is going to swallow up Indiana's offense. I feel like this is a defense like you'd build in a lab to take down Indiana, particularly Halliburton and Siakam. I think just all those perimeter defenders, those point of attack guys, to throw at Halliburton, the scheme, the way they defended him, to just not let him just go crazy with the passing that he can do. And then Siakam wants the transition stuff, wants the open space stuff, and OKC is good at anyone at taking those things away. I thought earlier, the first two rounds of the playoffs, I thought Indiana was winning with team ball. I thought it was like a 5-man lineup and bench effort. I think they beat the Knicks with stars. I thought it was Siakam, Halliburton, carrying for the most part. And if you take those two mostly away, well, role players alone are not going to beat OKC. So I'm OKC in 5. I took a couple exact outcomes. You can catch the series preview we had with Matt Moore on Monday. You can get the whole thing on that. But I think that's the important setup, because for me, a lot of those do pretty directly tie into where I'm going to go with a lot of our props for tonight.
Yeah, I think that perfectly checks out. And to be honest, I am, despite being the Indy believer, I am kind of with you on being lower in the matchup side of things on Halliburton and Siakam. I think you're going to hear that time and time again. So with that level setting, let's go into these markets themselves. Lead off with points, in part because it's points. You always lead with points. Also because it might be the most boring. Let's get the boring one out of the way here. I'm looking at minus 6,000 for Shea for points for the series leader. So leader itself, we're probably not betting. But are there other ways you're approaching the points market as a whole this series? Joe, I'll go to you first. I'm not sure you have a ton, but do you have any looks here for this series on the point side of things?
I struggled with this one a lot because I just think that SGA is going to cook, but at the same time, I'm nervous about one game where it's either going to be the Indy game, because I think that there probably will be one Indy game where they maybe blow Oklahoma City out of the water, like we've seen, and like maybe they aren't able to come back, or Oklahoma City does their best boat racing effort and put up like 100 in less than 3 quarters, and the game's just completely out of reach. So and then that's going to pull down kind of his average. But Shea should lead the series in scoring. I was looking a little bit at like the 45 in any game or the 50 in any game if you want something fun to kind of root for. I think it's probably better than trying to pick a random game that it's going to happen in. My only concern is that I think this is going to be a short series. So I don't love the any game because I think it might only be 4 or 5 games. I don't have as many cracks at the apple. So I'm going to lay off, but if I was, I'd be looking at a Shea 50 plus in any game.
I will say one difference between, I think we're actually relatively aligned despite me being on the other side of things in general here from a big picture perspective. The biggest difference is because of that, I like the any game, and you guys are going to like the every game. So that is kind of the line of demarcation there where, we're thinking about similar players being good matchup wise, but I'm team any game here, and you guys are going to be team every game. Brandon, let's go to you next with how you're looking at the points market. You're obviously going to have a way to bet it. So what are you looking at when it comes to points in this series?
Yeah, I struggled to even find much of an angle here, but I'm going to find something. I really thought that we would get some book to give us a points leader parentheses, not Gilgeous-Alexander, right?
Yeah.
That would actually be quite interesting. And I quite frankly don't know who it would be because we don't have that market out there. But I would be curious to kind of analyze that between obviously J-Dub, Halliburton, Siakam being the main 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we get that at some point. So maybe that's a thing that we come back to on one of the podcasts if we get something along those lines. Similarly, I know if they post the lines, after 2 games, Shea's going to be up 25 points cumulatively already. I know I'm going to be tempted by some 3,000 to 1 or just he could get hurt, we don't know what can happen. The series goes long. So after 2 games when Shea's a bajillion ahead, I would just not even list the market anymore, but I'm at least going to take a look and see if there's a sprinkle out there just because doomsday scenarios happen. Hilariously, this is probably the bet I'm going to give here is the one that goes directly against the very thing that I gave out for the series. This is a quarter unit bet. To me, this is just kind of more of a fun sprinkle bet. And I think, too, this is one of 2 bets I'm going to give on this podcast that's, what if I'm wrong about this series? I don't mind betting the what if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, if I like this bet anyways, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to like it way more. Okay, that kind of sets up for some, not really a hedge, but it gives me a more of a portfolio. So Halliburton and Siakam to combine for 60 points in any game, it's plus 950. Now again, this is against everything that I just told you. I think it's a short series, so I should want every game, not any game. I don't think Halliburton's going to have a great series. I don't think Siakam's going to have a great series. They played Oklahoma City twice this year. They combined for 26 and 29 points. I need more than that in one game for this bet. However, here's the math. They averaged about 40 a game so far in the playoffs between them. We need 60. Well, we only need it once. Their median's 38. Here's what they've done in the playoffs. They had a 52 combined against Cleveland, against the Knicks, 52, 53, 62. I think we all think this is going to be a high-scoring series, so we may not get a ton of games necessarily, but we're going to get a lot of points. We need 1. The math says at plus 950, that's 9.5% implied. If it's a 5-game series, and I'm right about it being short, and if this is only 2% to happen in one game, this is still a good bet. If it's more like 4% to happen, and we get 6 games, then these odds should be half of that. So this is just a math bet. This is a bet against all the things I actually think in the series. But Halliburton and Siakam, 60 points. I think it's a fun one. It's just a quarter unit plus 950.
This is a classic Brandon bit of the what if I'm wrong. And I've tried developing this in my portfolio as well, because I really do think it's an excellent way to kind of Yeah, you should always be wondering, what if I'm wrong? What are the avenues to being wrong, and how can I still make money off that? You don't If you can make money when you're still wrong, that's the best of the best. Oh, let me point out here that there's going to be a lot of bets in this episode. We're going to be giving out bets galore. Make sure you're following all three of us in the app. That's going to be the easiest way to the app rules. We all love the app. Follow in the app, you'll get the notification. Boom, click it, find it. You'll be good to go there. So definitely make sure to be following Witan Brando, Joe Dellera, and Turvey Bets in the Action Network app, if somehow you are not already. We can probably move on from points. I will briefly mention, I have a bet here that is kind of against what you guys are thinking. I think Shea's point total here, 33.5, is very high to me. This is well above his postseason average so far. Now, part of that is blowouts, but based on how confident you guys are, I think you might say that there might be some blowouts in this game. And Joe, I think you kind of hinted at, there are paths towards Shea going under, not having, I don't think he's going to not lead, but there are paths to him. A 33.5 is a pretty big number in general.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, that this is going to be kind of a theme for me tonight, is that I see a certain game script that would make sense for Indiana to throw at OKC. And with coaches author, we always laugh about, don't do the thing just because it's logical and you think a coach will do it. If there's one coach out there who I trust to do the logical, smart thing that we see from the sideline, it's Rick Carlisle. I think that they are going to really load up on Shea. I think Aaron Nesmith has some really good defensive numbers on him. I think he will be the primary assignment. They have Nembhard. He hasn't bothered him as much, but is a very good defender in general. I think they're going to say, Shea, you're going to get your 30 no matter what, but we're not letting you get 45. We're not letting you get 50. You're really going to be the point of emphasis here. And I think that his point total may suffer from that. So I think 33.5 is a little bit too high. It's not a mega whale bet, max it out. It's more of a lean, but I do think that I like the under of that total for Shea. So any thoughts on that from you guys, or any other final bets on points market in general before we move along to rebounds?
Yeah, I mean, Shea could go over his points prop in, say 4 or 5 games and still go under this bet, just because of one bad game pulling the whole thing down.
And it's not even a bad game. It's a good game. It's a game that they dominate, and he scored 19 because it was such a good game.
Exactly.
So yeah, I like the idea. To me, it's under nothing. I'm definitely not betting an over 33.5, even though I think he can just do anything he wants against this defense, which, Jim, you think otherwise. But even then, I still don't want an over. It's just way too many points. The line is so high. Books know that we're going to want to bet the over because that's just the instincts. It's under or pass, but I think it's a smart under.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm very glad to hear that even though we are on different sides of this series, you're on that side of Shea with me. Let's move into rebounds. I think we all kind of agree, or at least I'll pose the question. I certainly think this is the most interesting market. We have a lot of bets here. It might be the most bettable. I just think it's the most interesting in general. So before we even get into it, do you guys agree with me that this is the most interesting market, in part because we didn't get to, let me set the scene. The favorite is Chet. He is minus money, minus 145 is what I'm looking at here. Then there's kind of a glut of folks, Hartenstein, Siakam, J-Dub, even Shea out there. I think Chet wasn't in either of these two games. The three of us look at the games, try not to overweigh them, but definitely it is a point of, you go to the games, you look at how folks matched up, what they did in those games. We didn't get to see Chet even in those two games. So were you a little hesitant? We have a lot of bets here, but were you hesitant a little bit? Or did you think that logically things made sense? Brandon, I'll go to you first here with the rebound market.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting market because for me at least, this is a spot where one of my big angles on the series is I think we go small. And I don't know how quickly we go small, but I think things trend small. I think Isaiah Hartenstein, I think this is not the best series for him just with the matchups. I think, frankly, both teams will prefer Hartenstein to be off the court, but Oklahoma City especially, they don't necessarily need him out there a ton. I think Chet actually is a really intriguing X factor, both offense and defense. I think he can hang just fine defensively. They did a lot of switching with Hartenstein in the regular season onto Halliburton, and still really limited Halliburton because the rest of the help around him. Well, Chet's a much better defender than Hartenstein, much more versatile, certainly against a smaller guy. So I love that for them. Offensively, if you go Hartenstein off the court, Chet on the court, now you're taking Miles Turner out of the paint to guard someone that can shoot the three. Miles Turner out of the paint is a layup line for Shea and a big problem for Indiana's defense. And you might not even need Chet on the court. We'll talk about this later, but I think we'll see some minutes with like Kenrich Williams as the de facto center, as J-Dub as the de facto center. So to me, like, look, let's just say what it is. Oklahoma City rebounds is in my wheelhouse. This is the thing I've been watching for the last 2 weeks is the Thunder rebounding or not rebounding because of the Ant rebound thing. Similarly here, that was a series where we got Les Hartenstein, we got some Chet, we got the guys kind of offsetting each other a little bit. To me, I think the game script and the way that rebounds have played out, the way Shea's rebounds have been up, I think that there's a lot of intrigue here in that I think it's a certain way, and I'm going to bet it accordingly, but this could also go a different way than what I have too. But I think that's what makes it interesting is that you kind of have to pick an angle that you like here. And it's not just, oh, I like the volume for this player, or I like the minutes for this guy. You have to choose a path, choose your own adventure a little bit. And so I think we've each chosen that and have a bunch of bets accordingly. But it seems like one that I suspect we'll be watching and playing throughout the series too.
Well, and I was gonna push back on the you have to pick an angle only to say I'm gonna be watching this throughout the series because my biggest note here is I want to see a Czech game first. This market is spread out enough that it's not going to be settled after one game. We're going to have plenty of time to attack this. That being said, there are a lot of good bets here. Joe, do you want to lead with either your thoughts on the market as a whole or get us right into the bets for rebound market here in the finals?
Yeah, I'll start it off with a little bit of a general overview, and then I'll go into the bet that I like. But I do tend to agree. I do think that we're going to see some minutes with like J-Dub at the 5 for sure. And I also think that it's interesting because Oklahoma City and Indiana, neither team has been super pressed to tighten their rotations. And I think because of that, it might actually help keep this a little bit more even throughout where we have a little bit more optionality. But my thought is, and the one concern that I maybe have, which may be a good bet, which actually might help some of these bets actually, is that I think Indiana is going to be the team that has to tighten the rotation first because I think that they're much less talented down the roster. And I think that that's going to help some of their players maybe see extended minutes. Maybe they need to play in the 40s and you can't get away with playing, Halliburton and Siakam like minutes in the mid 30s. Like you have to be in the 40s. So I'm curious to see how that maybe plays out. But for me, I think on the flip side, Oklahoma City could just do the same thing. They could very well do that. Or they could also say, we still don't need to. Like, we're still just going to play our dudes and we're going to cause a problem because I think that New York, one of the things that we saw, the double big lineup like worked sometimes, but it didn't always work. And I'm wondering if just different coaching, different styles of bigs there where you don't maybe have you don't have like a hack on I heart type of thing allows them to maybe push that button a little bit more against this Pacers team. But for me, I think this is going to be a popular bet in this round. The first thing that I bet in terms of rebounding in this market was I bet Shea over 5.5 rebounds per game. It opened at close to even, but now we're seeing like minus 125s, minus 130s or so in the market. I love the bet. He has crushed against Indiana really last year, but also this year as well, averaging 7 rebounds per game. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity here for him in a playoff setting, more minutes, a little bit more opportunity, and in a matchup that can trend smaller, which then could also take, if Hartenstein maybe starts playing the majority of the series in the beginning and you see a big minutes for him, that could also tail off in the middle of the series as well. If that's not something that's working out for Oklahoma City, they're not going to start small. They're going to still start with their kind of traditional type of lineup. And I think that they would trend smaller as the series goes later. And I think that would just help us on the upside there. So if it doesn't go right, maybe in game 1, I would be definitely interested in looking into buying in again into this market a little bit later on in the series.
I really like that. And Brandon, I'll come to you in 1 second, but I actually think I have a very natural piggyback off of Joe with my bet here. And I wanted to talk through this with you guys, but I'm only feeling better after hearing what Joe said. One of my bets here is Siakam double-double in any game at plus 110. Now, the case against it's pretty easy. He's only done it once in the postseason in 3 series. So it's a pretty easy counter to that. However, I will say he did very well cleaning the glass the 2 games against Indiana. Now, half of one of those games, Hartenstein was out with an injury, and both full games, Chet was out. So it is a little bit of a mixed sample. But, Joe, you nailed it for me. I talked about this in part of why I'm intrigued by Indiana. they have not hit the minutes overload button yet. They are playing their guys mid 30s, low 30s often. One trend I noticed that I think is pretty telling and pretty interesting, and just another, man, I think Rick Carlisle is smart, thing that I found here. The minutes for Halliburton and Siakam have been highest in game ones and game twos of these series. Carlisle knows how important it is to get out to the front foot here in these series, and those are the games he has been leaning on them. Then game script stuff, blowouts, you're going to get chances to sit guys, but in those close early games, now I don't know if we'll get a close game one. This could be a route in game one anyways. But I think that there is an ability here to play higher minutes, and especially Siakam here. Siakam seems like a popular guy. He's popping up, not to spoil too many years, Brandon, but Siakam is a guy, at least for me, the minutes are part of this where he can get more minutes. Now, I think you worry with this Indiana team it's part of their special sauce that they don't play these minutes. They come out so fresh. They're sprinting up and down the court, and those minutes maybe take away from it. I think the counter to that is I do think OKC is going to be pretty successful at mucking things up and not letting them get those runouts. If anything, maybe that says, okay, we do have the energy to now play 40 minutes. So I think that those minutes will be there for the Pacers. That starting five is really the starting five. That net rating is really what has carried the Pacers this postseason. The Thunder, it is those like one guy off the bench type lineups that are their best lineups, to be honest. So I think Joe is 100% right that Indy is the team that's going to tighten that rotation first, be it because they're losing or be it because their starters are the ones they really need to lean on. So I like the Siakam number at plus 112 to get 110 to do a double-double. Again, this isn't a hammer. This is more of a lean in general, but I like a couple of the ways that you're approaching Siakam here as well, Brandon. So why don't you talk to me about some of your rebound bets for this finals?
Yeah, I'm in on both Shea and Siakam. I actually had the Siakam double-double in my notes as my 28th bet possibility here. So, just couldn't hit the cutoff. He only did it in 14% of the regular season games, and that's what kind of pushed me away from it. But he's only one rebound away from both Oklahoma City games. He had 9 rebounds both games. He in the last 4 games, so the last 2 seasons against OKC, he's had 5 in one game, but 9, 10, and 11 in the others. So average 8.8 rebounds a game, 75% rebound rate in those games too, which is a very high rebound rate, which could possibly imply a little luck there. Normally it would, but 4-game sample is not nothing for a 75% and that many rebounds. I think we're going to get some of those center minutes like we talked about. Siakam over 5.5 rebounds is also pretty much the exact same thing as what Joe said with Shea. I like Shea over on the rebounds just slightly more. I have a little more confidence. I guess to me, Shea is the better rebounder by position. I have more confidence in Shea's guard rebounding ability. I don't think Siakam is a great rebounder necessarily. There's just going to be a lot of rebounds, and he's going to be the big guy, and there's going to be chances here. So I feel a little better about Shea rebounding in general, but I think 5.5 for both of them is too low. For Shea, the bet that I really like, there's one book that has a Shea head-to-head rebounds per game against Miles Turner. Oh boy, am I glad to fade Miles Turner rebounds. Miles Turner, especially if I'm right that we're going to get less big play and more Miles away from the basket with Chet. Here's a really key stat. So Miles Turner actually averaged 8 rebounds a game against Oklahoma City this year. But, Jim, like you said, no Chet. Only iHeart. We got a lot of iHeart minutes and a lot of Turner with iHeart in the paint, by the basket, reach up, grab the rebound, done. 8 rebounds a game. Last year, Chet played. Last year, Turner had 3 rebounds and 3 rebounds in the 2 games with Chet on the court. And we've seen that in this year's playoffs. Played Cleveland, 2 bigs, 7.2 rebounds a game for Turner. Played Milwaukee and New York, even with some New York 2 bigs, 3.9 rebounds a game. Huge drop-off for him. So I think either you get Turner dealing with the better rebounder in iHeart, or iHeart's off the court and now Turner's away from the basket. Yeah. So I think Shea versus Turner, it's effectively priced even odds between the two right now. That's crazy to me. I have Shea something like 6 to 8 rebounds a game, and Turner 4 to 5. So a clear advantage there. I will be playing that one for more than a unit and Shea over 5.5 rebounds for more than a unit. I'll play Siakam over 5.5 rebounds. And then for me, it's those 2 guys as my rebounds leader position. I'm going to play both of them, half a unit each. Siakam, best price right now is plus 700 and Shea plus 2,200. again, quite frankly, I think I like Shea a little bit more. So I don't mind if you want to like push a little bit more of your bet to the Shea side of it, even though he's the longer number. Siakam might just get more opportunities, though, as just like the center for a lot of time in the series. But to me, this is a fade iHeart, fade Turner position. I'm going to push us over to Joe, though, because Joe has a bet on Chet here. And we haven't really talked about Chet. And I'm not totally sure. Part of the intrigue for me on the series, rebounding stuff, is it just Chet? Maybe it's just Chet, the one giant man who's definitely going to play out there, who I call an X factor. 6 rebounds a game against Minnesota, 9.7 in the other 2 series. Last year when he played, 10.5 against Oklahoma City. All this is real cute and all, but if Siakam and Shea go up to 6, 7, 8 rebounds, but Chet's at 10, I'm still going to lose all my series leader bets. That's why for me, I'm playing the over 5.5s. And the head-to-head with Turner. Normally, I like to just go all in with the big one. You guys know. I do think there's a scenario where Chet just is the clear leader in this category after a game or two. Joe, I know you kind of like Chet here. You have a bet on him, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at Chet, 10-plus rebounds per game. It's like there's plus money on it, plus 125. I kind of prefer this to him leading the series in rebounds for a number of reasons. Number one is, like, God forbid he gets hurt. You could still win on this. We have seen Chet get hurt before. It's not, out of the question. Additionally, I think that if Chet is getting 10, like if he's averaging 10 a game, I think it's because iHeart's not playing as much. I think it's also because he's effectively playing like a 5, like a real 5 for this team. And I think that I think it's unlikely, although it's possible, that he could lead the series in rebounding without averaging 10. I think in this series, maybe it's possible, just given the fact that nobody is a particularly strong rebounder. But to me, I think if he's not averaging 10, it means that there's a little bit more Hartenstein than we had anticipated. And Hartenstein is a guy that can rack up rebounds really, really fast. And I think that would be my concern, because it's like if he's going to share the floor with Hartenstein doesn't even need that. If he gets 25 minutes, he could be pulling down 12. So I'm not super interested in that part. So I'd rather just grab the plus money on a spot, maybe throw like a half unit on it. I don't feel super strongly about it, but at the same time, I do think that it's a better angle for Chet than to bet him to lead in rebounds, at least pre-series. That might be something that I'd want to change or rebet later on in the series.
And Joe, you do have a couple of rebound leaders here listed. Are you liking both of those as well? Yeah.
So I like Shea to lead in rebounds, and I also like Jalen Williams. The number on J-Dub has kind of come down a little bit since it's been bet originally, but I do think that we are going to see some minutes with J-Dub at the 5. I think that there's plenty of opportunity for him to kind of rack up those rebounds. We have seen it. It's not something that's exactly, out of the question. My only concern is he's only averaged 3 rebounds per game against this team this season, which to me, I don't exactly understand why. It just is, it feels more like an outlier than anything else. But at the same time, I think that the number was a little bit longer. So I don't mind building a position with J-Dub and Shea, but I would definitely shade it more towards Shea if I was betting the 2 of them.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I did not have a specific leader best bet, but I'm going to be joining you guys on SGA for sure. Any final thoughts on rebound market before we head to assists?
Yeah, one other one here, even though this is my other fading myself angle that I'm going to give out here, because I think it kind of rounds out the rebounds portfolio. Obviously, I've given out 5 rebounding bets, so I think this is a nice one to have in the rebound portfolio, because we all need a rebound portfolio. Isaiah Hartenstein, who we are all fading to get 6 rebounds every game at 5-1. So here's the reason. Even if the minutes fade, Hartenstein is a great rebounder. He's not going to get played off the court. This is not a Steven Adams situation, RIP. He's going to still play his 15, 20 minutes. Hartenstein's averaging a rebound every 3 minutes in the playoffs. 18 minutes, 6 rebounds. That's what we need. If he plays full minutes, 24 to 30, this is free. This is like a free bet, 5-1. If I'm wrong and Hartenstein is mashing in the series like he did getting Denver sort of minutes, this is a freebie. His floor in the playoffs has been 5. He's never had a game below 5 rebounds, even though he didn't get to play very much already just last series. He's had 6 rebounds, 13 out of 16 games. So even if I am low on his minutes, which I am, even if I kind of did a little math here to say, okay, you know what? His averages I can't use here. He played extra minutes for Denver games because Jokic and all their size there. We're not getting that this series. Take those out of the average. Even like siphoning off all the Hartenstein stuff, I think books are basically pricing that also. Otherwise, he would be the favorite for series leader. So even when I do that, even if I say, okay, only 75% hit rate, lower than what you've been doing, and only 5 games, this still gives me like what should be a plus 300, and I'm getting plus 500, and I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, those odds go further in my favor here. So to me, this is just like a half unit hedge. Hartenstein, 6 rebounds every game, 5-1. I did see a 7 rebound every game. That's a little far for me because I don't want to be aggressive here. This is just like, this is a conservative number for Hartenstein. And frankly, this is the sort of hedge sort of position that we could hit both sides. Like we could be right about Hartenstein, win the bet, and still be right about our other stuff and hit some of the series leaders. And I feel like that's a good sort of spot to put us in. Joe, I think you had your eye on this one too, right?
I actually would be closer to a full unit on this, and in large part, I think it's going to have to do with the pace. So both of these teams have actually played a lot of teams that were relatively slow in their pace throughout the entire postseason. If we look at the postseason numbers, the only team that's played at a faster pace than both the Thunder and the Indiana Pacers is the Memphis Grizzlies, and that's it. Otherwise, they're 2-3 in pace during the postseason. And they're like, when you look at the postseason overall, we're seeing a low. The Magic, whatever. But like the Magic were at 90, the Celtics were at 91. Both of these teams are basically at like roughly 100 in terms of if you averaged out their pace. So it's slower than the regular season for sure, but it definitely is a little bit more of an up-tempo type of style. We see a lot more steals from both of these teams. We're going to probably see some turnovers. I think that is going to lend itself to a couple extra rebounding opportunities. So I like it. And I just think that Hartenstein is an important enough piece. And he's not somebody that is going to totally get played off just because he does have some playmaking chops as well. Like we have seen it. He is relatively effective as a screener. He's good at the nail. So there's a lot of different opportunities for Hartenstein to stay on the floor and kind of exploit that like really soft at the end of the day Pacers defense and especially their big. So I think the 6 in every game is still a really solid bet given the floor.
Yeah, really. The floor with Hartenstein is what you want to be betting. So I quite like that. Any final thoughts? Going once, going twice on rebounds. All right, rebounds have been very, very good to us, Brandon in particular, this postseason. So hopefully keep that run going. Underdog is one of the best places to make picks during playoff basketball. While they score buckets, you could score cash. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Their app has over 100,000 5-star reviews and millions of players. To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower than one of their stats. Choose things like points, assists, so much more. Once your pick feels good, you can play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo Buckets100 to unlock a special offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code Buckets100. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Let's move over to assists. So assists, there's really only like 3 names listed here. It's Halliburton is a heavy favorite, not as heavy as Shea for points, but a heavy favorite. Then you've got Shea. That number has come down a little bit. And then you've got J-Dub as a super duper long shot. So this market to me was a little bit more interesting before numbers moved around a little bit. I still do see a lot of bets here. So Joe, I'll go back to you because I led with Brandon last time. Why don't we start with you, how you're approaching assists? We don't have to do assist leader just yet. Maybe any bets you're kind of looking at in this market in particular, even if it's just kind of game to game stuff.
So it's actually interesting. I don't know. I forget when what I listened to that I heard this, and it's a perfect stat for Brandon because he's gonna love this one. But it's that when covered by Lou Dort, Tyrese Halliburton, out of all defenders in the NBA, he has the lowest usage rate when covered by Lou Dort.
Yep.
And the ball just has really struggled to not only like impact the game at all, but to even have the ball in his hands to impact the game. That level of physicality has been problematic for Halliburton, and I think it's a great way to kind of fade him, especially if we've kind of seen where teams like, we haven't seen it as much this postseason, but we saw it a lot more last postseason, where especially Boston, they just hunted Halliburton every possession, like every single time on defense. That tires him out too, because I think that that's something that Oklahoma City could do as well. I think it's going to make it a little bit harder for him to run the offense, especially if he's being guarded by Lou Dort. We also saw all the different defensive options that Oklahoma City can throw at him. And I think that this is going to be a situation and a series where they might just say, we have so many wings, so many top-notch defensive guards. We are going to get that ball out of your hands like before you even cross half court. Like, you're never going to be in an opportunity to actually run the offense that you want to run, and the rest of the team can beat us. We don't even care how. And to me, I think that the way to fade that is to go on Halliburton's series under on the assists. It's 9.5. And he averaged 5.5 against them this season. That is so far below what his normal numbers are. He only scored 11 points per game too. So I think it's just going to be hard for him to touch the ball and to really put his stamp on the game. Also, like, if he has one game at, say, 15 dimes, okay. At the same time, I think that there's going to be a lot more games where he's going way under the double-digit mark. And, we're seeing maybe some games at 5. We're seeing a 3. We're seeing, a game that they just could never get anything going. So I think it's a great opportunity to fade Halliburton in terms of his assisting. And it's really just a bet on his usage and the defensive scheme that Oklahoma City, I think, is going to use to try to slow him down.
Yeah, not to spoil the assist leader market here in general and how we feel about this. This is, I think, the most lockstep the three of us are in all series. I'm, again, on Indiana, and I even am like, this is my favorite bet of the entire podcast is Halliburton under 9.5 assists. It's really juicy right now. I wouldn't even mind if it went down to 8.5. We got some plus money. Yeah. I wouldn't even mind if went down to 7.5. We got some plus money.
We might after this podcast.
Yeah, that's very true. I think you bet at game one. We've joked in the past about needing like a big board behind us, like to track the bets that we're like, keep going back to this. I don't think we're going to need it this time. I think we're going to remember each game, go back, bet Halliburton. The only fear is they might adjust it by game 2 or game 3. Game 3 is one where I probably won't bet it, to be honest. That's going to be a Pacer spot regardless. This game 1, I think you have to hammer it. It's going to be the highest it is all series. And it's going to be this, insane OKC home team. And what's it? A historically great spot for teams. So absolutely love the under on Halliburton's series assists. Brandon, you got a bunch here. Why don't you?
Let me jump in on Halliburton actually, because I don't have a whole lot more to add, but I just want to jump in because this is my favorite bet of the series. Like on the series previews y'all been listening to with Matt and I, we always lead with the series. Like on the Timberwolves one last time, I led with the Ant rebounds, even though it was a 50-1 as the best bet. Fade Halliburton assists is my best bet. We saved the props for this one. I just want to make sure that part is clear. We called rebounds the most interesting part of the different parts of our podcast. This is the most exciting part for me as a bettor. Like, this is the one that I want to play. This for me, minus 150, fine. 3 units. This is like the biggest play that I'll be making on the series. And it is directly going to get into some of the other angles on assists. But just to add a couple of Halliburton things, 5.5 assists per game against the Thunder this year. It's his lowest against any team in the entire NBA. On 11.5 potential assists, also his lowest against any team in the league. So it's not just, did his teammates just get cold and miss the shots? No, they're not getting chances. That's more than 4 potentials per game lower than his average. It's more than 10 assist points created down compared to his season averages. That's a lot of points, and it's part of why I really like OKC in the series. Only the Spurs defense was even close, and frankly, in round 2, the Cavs defense, the way they played Halliburton, got pretty close here. And once you know it, Halliburton didn't even lead his own team in assists that series. Nembhard did with one at the buzzer, basically, to win the series. So his assists were down 40% on his season average against Oklahoma City. That is a huge amount. OKC just has so many guys to throw at him. And this is what they do to your primary creator. Nikola Jokic was minus 11 to his season average on points created. Ant minus 5. Ja minus 10. This is what this caliber of defense does, is say, oh, that's what you want to do? Cool. Well, you can't do that anymore. What else you got? And I think they're going to say, what else you got? And Jim thinks they have some other answers better than I do for the Pacers, I think, here. That's not the question. None of us think the Pacers are going to have the chance to let Halliburton be the answer. So under 9.5 assists. And then I think if that's true, what's exciting is that means this entire market is completely mispriced. Because if Halliburton goes under 9.5, and you're right, I'd be in. Give me the mine shaft. Under 9.5 per game, under 8.5 per game. I would play 7.5. I would play 6.5. Obviously, assuming that the odds matched it. Yeah. I don't think we're going to fall below 6.5 necessarily, but I'd play it. I think it is in play for where the series could go. So I like Shea. I like Shea's assists. That, for me, plus 500 is my favorite series leader that I'm going to give out. It's not my only one in this market, but we'll come back to the second one. Shea, over 6.5 assists is his line. I'm not going to play that line too aggressively. This is like a half unit. For me, if I'm this solidly below Halliburton's 9.5, and if I like Shea over 6.5, well, I may as well just stick with the series leader at that point, because probably that's the way it plays out, unless it's my other guy, which frankly, I'd be fine with given the odds. Shea, 8 assists per game against Indy, 10, 7, and 7 the last 2 years. So just not crazy numbers, just good quality numbers. It's going to be a fast series. I think he's going to shred this defense. We talked about a lot of the reasons for that. I think, too, there's one book that has just a head-to-head against Halliburton plus 350. If you think that the guy we're going to talk about in a while is in play here, maybe that's a safer version, depending on what number you've got for Shea for series leader. I also like Shea 6 assists every game. It's plus 460. So that'll be a full unit play for me. 6 has been basically his floor in the playoffs. Game 7 against Denver, he only had 5 because remember, it's a huge blowout. So he got to sit at the end. One other assist in that game, and he's hit 6 in 14 straight games. So in the regular season, his assists are 5.3 per game. Or sorry, that's rebounds. In regular season, he's hitting this 6 assists only around 63%. Playoffs, that's jumped over 80%. So this is plus 460. I do think it's below 50-50, but I make it about 40%. I'd make this like plus 150. Again, because I like the Thunder in this series, is going to help this bet as well, because that's more chances for Shea to get that. We've been playing Shea rebounds per game, or sorry, assists per game. Lots of stats on this one, but we've been playing the floor here for him lots of ways. So over 6.5 assists, that's fine. I prefer to play the 6 every game, and then Shea for assist leader as one of the two that I think all three of us like, right? Jim, you're in on Shea for assist leader as well?
If people are listening, it's probably like, how on earth is this guy twisting himself into knots to be on Indiana? There are ways in which I am interested in Indiana, but I do think Shea assists is a way that I want to approach this, in part because I think, again, I kind of mentioned at the top with the Shea points under, is if Carlisle is like, I don't want Shea beating us. I don't want him being 50. I want him being 40. I want him the ball out of his hands. I do think that makes sense. I think the assists are a really good look. I like the over 6.5. I really like the 6 assists every game. I also like Shea to get a triple-double in any game at plus 475. We're all over Shea rebounds. We're all over Shea assists. Yeah. He's not scoring less than 10 points. I really think that triple-double number is really nice. I always think that, Joe, you're the king of the triple-double. There's definitely, and it may well be baked in, but if he's at, 23, 9, and 10, and it's not a close game, he's going to go for a triple-double in the finals. Like,
yeah, he did just miss a triple-double, a 40-point triple-double by a rebound last round, though.
This is true. True. And in the finals, maybe they have a bigger picture thing here. Sure. But overall, I love being on the Shea side of it. I think Shea leader is a great bet. I like to be on the under for Halliburton. I think that's probably our consensus favorite bet. Braden said it. It's also mine. Joe, it seems like it's up there for you as well. Brandon, do you want to soft launch our favorite long shot here?
Yeah. All right. So we've teased it enough here. So series assist leader, I'm on Shea plus 500 for 2 units. I'm not going 2 units on the other guy, but if we're right that Halliburton is that low on assists, we said before, who led the team against Cleveland? Andrew Nembhard led them in assists. Nembhard for series leader. Now, please shop around. The numbers that we're seeing for Nembhard series leader are wild. I've seen him as low as 18 or 20 to 1, where he's moving that way. I bet him at 150 to 1 at one book. I've seen an 80 to 1. I've seen a 50, a 75. I'm not excited at 20. Though I still think it's not a terrible bet at 20, if that gives you an idea of where we're going here. Against the Thunder this season, we told you Halliburton, 5.5 assists per game. Mm-hmm. Nembhard had 7 assists, both of those games. And again, that's not just great shooting. He had 15.5 potential assists. Halliburton, 11.5. That's 4 more. Like, he got the Halliburton potentials. That's the number Halliburton has for the season. Nembhard has it. And that's what we saw against the Cavs. And to me, that is them saying, that's the Thunder saying, you're not beating us, Halliburton. Who else can? Nembhard's a pretty good player. Nembhard's not going to necessarily beat the Thunder defense, but he can beat them with some passing, get some assists. So I think if you can get a long number on Nembhard, especially to kind of build out the position here, I would not want to be naked with the Shea leader and not have a little bit of Nembhard. If it's a really long number, like for me, this is like a half unit on Nembhard and a 2 unit on Shea. So I want the big position, but I definitely want more of it on Shea. But I think Nembhard is very much in play here. Let's go, Joe. Tag in on the Nembhard love.
Yeah, I mean, the number is just outrageous. Like I kept looking for it, and I was like, oh, all right. Like, I'm not super interested at 18 to 1, but like, okay, that's more or less where I thought it might be. And then I saw like a 75, and then we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I hit that. And then you're like, there's 150 to 1 out there. And I was like, get the hell out of here. Like, I was like, where did that pop? So yeah, like I think you have to be in on it. And I think that naturally that leads you into some of these head-to-head markets. So Nembhard head-to-head assists versus J-Dub is plus 175. And I think that's a great bet. I think that he just has a lot more opportunity to lead this offense when we're looking at it kind of the flip side from Oklahoma City too. And we're saying, well, maybe Shea needs to facilitate a little bit more. Maybe Nesmith does bother him a little bit. Maybe it does make his life a little bit more difficult. Or maybe they set in doubles every time because they just are like, we have no way to stop him. And then that kind of detracts from J-Dub a little bit. So I think that Nembhard has a great opportunity here to excel for Indiana. And the only concern is obviously, I think in the playoffs, you're not going to necessarily stick to what happened in the regular season where you go, all right, like they just got Halliburton out of every game every time. Like that is, I think, what the concern is, right? Where in the playoffs, it's like, all right, well, you probably got to scheme something to get your best player the ball and make sure that he gets opportunities here. But at the same time, I think that's going to take a lot of work to get him enough touches to really make this enticing. And if he does, I do think there are going to be some of these games where, then maybe Nembhard has a great assist game, then Halliburton does, then Nembhard does, then Halliburton does, and then that goes back and helps your Shea bet anyway, because he's going to have a little bit more stable floor. So I like getting Nembhard here. I think it's a great opportunity for him to, see an expanded role where they kind of do need him. And he has less holes than a TJ McConnell, who is just going to get destroyed on defense, just absolutely destroyed.
I really do think, Joe, you framed it best when you were talking through. I can't remember which part of our Halliburton worries it was, but the ball just won't be in his hands as much. And when I was talking to Matt about, some of my worries about this, I was saying to him, I'm less worried about the turnovers and less worried about the fear of the turnovers and just getting the ball out of Halliburton's hand. And then your offense is not what it normally is. It's almost like the fear of the turnover has this inherent value in and of itself. I think that fear of the turnover is what's going to drive the ball out of Halliburton's hand. I think you're right, Joe, that they're going to get the ball into his hands. It's the finals. He's your best player. They're going to figure it out. But I don't think it's going to be as consistent. If OKC's putting full court pressure, Nembhard could very well be bringing it up to kind of mediate some of that, especially if it's Dort on Halliburton. Now maybe they'll flip stuff around. But overall, the ball's going to be out of his hand more than it normally is.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in the. This is kind of going back a little bit, but like there was a series. Kevin Durant was talking about this for I forget what playoff series, but I was watching this clip, and basically he was like, they're putting somebody on me, and I can score every time. Like if they're going to give me that matchup, like it's a good matchup for me. Like that's fine. The problem is when you have that same matchup 50 times in a game, if you only shoot like 45%. You're going to lose. Like you're scoring probably under a point per possession on the aggregate. On an individual matchup, that's fine. But like you can't live with that same thing. It's like if the team's giving it to you, then like it's probably going to be a problem for you over the court. Like that's something that they obviously are scheming that they want. But like here, it's kind of the same thing where it's like you might be able to force the ball to Halliburton to a degree, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be optimal for this Pacers offense if that is the level of defensive attention they're going to keep throwing at him.
100%. Brandon, you've got a couple other bets here and assists before I move us along. Why don't you give us those and then we'll go over to threes?
Yeah, a couple other Nembhard things. I also like the Nembhard J-Dub bet. So the Nembhard side is plus 175. And I think to me that looks like the right price if you think that this is a standard Nembhard series. J-Dub typically is averaging, if you look at just series averages, about 4.5 to 6, which makes sense, right? He gets 5 assists every single game somehow. His assists per game is like 5.1 in the regular season. Played Indy this year, he averaged 5.5. J-Dub is steady. He's going to be in that range. Nembhard, in now 6 playoff series the last 2 years, has been between 3.5 to 5 assists per game and 4 the series. So I think that makes sense. J-Dub would be priced as the clear favorite. However, the other 2 series, Nembhard against Cleveland this year, 7.2 assists per game. Big jump from 3.5 to 5. And he had a series last year, 7.8 assists per game. So I think that's what we're hoping here, is we get the big jump. I don't think J-Dub is floor, but not a lot of ceiling. It's kind of right stuck in that middle range in all likelihood. It'd be ironic if he wasn't this one time, and that's what loses all of our bets, that J-Dub comes through. But I think that's why we like the Nembhard one. A little sprinkle if you like the Nembhard angle. 5 assists every game is 28 to 1. 5 assists every game is a high line for Nembhard. Like he could just get in foul trouble if he's defending Shea, and that's cooked. He could lose it in a blowout. We're probably not cashing this. This is like a quarter unit bet. However, I keep mentioning the Cleveland series. He was 1 assist and 1 game away from hitting this in that series. He's right there. It's 28 to 1. He had 5+ in 8 of his first 10 games. He had a terrible series production-wise last round. But if we're right that Nembhard is there, I think this is in the mix. I think it probably falls short. It's a heartbreak. It's not really a fun one to watch necessarily. Like you want to root on the stars and seeing the big numbers. This is like a set it, forget it, assume it's wrong. And then like after 3 games, that ticket's still alive. Now you got some options and we'll see where it goes. 28 to 1. I do have a J-Dub bet. I feel like I owe it to J-Dub to have an assist bet. And actually, this is another of my favorites on the pod. They keep giving the same bet to us. J-Dub 4 assists every game. We've bet this, I think, every single round of the playoffs. So we're just going to use some of our winnings and bet it again. This is a multi-unit play for me. It's plus 290. We owe it to this man. He's hit 4 assists or more all but 1 playoff game. He was terrible in the Game 3 blowout Minnesota loss. He was awful at everything. He didn't play very much. He had 2 assists. Otherwise, he's had 4 every single game. He has 5 most games. He had 5 and 6 against Indy. He's had 4 assists, 80% on the regular season, 82% including the playoffs. I basically, with the math that is, I'd make this around even odds. We're still getting close to 3 to 1. Heaven knows why we keep betting this and winning the bet every single round. But I guess we'll do it one more time. It's plus 290. I've seen it much lower, like plus 180 at another book. I still really like the plus 180. So, of course, I'm going to love plus 290. That's probably a 2-unit play for me. And other than our other assist stuff that we talked about, it is my other favorite bet on the pod. But just so that we're all clear for listeners, too, this is a family bet, right? Are we all in on Shea and Nembhard? And this is like if you bet one thing on the pod, this is the one, right?
Yeah, this is how we're doing it.
My 1-1, and this is in part because I don't mind laying a minus 150. My 1-1 is Halliburton under 9.5. But I do think it
Sure.
tethers
Yeah.
very
I
closely.
think these are all they're all
leader.
intertwined though, right?
Agreed.
Like you're not
This
betting this if
angle-
you're not betting the Halliburton
Right.
under
Yeah.
9.5.
I agree. The
Angle
Halliburton
is-
under 9.5 is our like is our it's cashing family bet.
Yeah,
But then it's the escalator version is grabbing the Shea and the Nemhard.
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, let me move us along to threes. We can be a little bit briefer here, in part because we don't have a ton here.
Yeah.
In part because David Payne is already not going to be having to share his winnings because he said if we kept it under an hour, he would share his winnings from my 500-1 best bet on the Indiana pod. That's not happening for multiple reasons now. So threes. This is a much flatter one. We've got Halliburton is the favorite, plus 125. Then we got Neesmith plus 390. We got Dort plus 500. Shea plus 850. Turner plus 900. J-Dub plus 1,000. It's really flat. There's a lot of potential bets here, a lot of potential angles. I think you guys are looking at this a little bit more of like how I'm looking at Chet Rebounds impact.
Yeah.
Like let's see a game or two. So Brandon, I'll lead with you. I don't think you have necessarily a other best bet here, but what are you looking at when you go to threes in particular with this series?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you just said, that this is one where I'm like, I'm intrigued by this market. I just don't necessarily know what I'm betting for it. Like, I think my best bet really for this market is wait a game or two, let somebody take a small lead, and then bet somebody from behind. I think that's really a fun way to play threes leader in general. Like, sorry to bring this up, but last round, we had Neesmith put up 8 threes the first game and sets a huge bar. And suddenly it's like, okay, great. Well, books have to price that in now. 8 threes is a lot of threes. Okay, well, how do we bet the guys from behind? I don't think we're going to have a huge leader here. I would project something like 2.5 threes a game gets us home. And if it's a short series, we're talking 10 3-pointers, maybe 12 threes the entire series now. To me, that screams variance, and it means I want long shots. So I'm going to sprinkle a quarter unit on 3 long shots and just kind of give myself a baseline on numbers that I bet 1 or 2 of these will be foolish bets. They'll be like 3 games in, 1 of 9, and I'll be like, cool, glad to have that ticket. I just need one of these names to get me in range. I think by attempts, I suspect Halliburton leads in attempts, but he might not. I don't know if Oklahoma City will let him get them up. I think Dort's probably next, but God knows I'm not betting Lou Dort to lead the finals in something.
Like not even a long number either.
No. He's not a long number. I can't do it. He has to play on the road in half the game still, so I can't do that. 3 guys. Nemhard 33-1, Chet 30-1, Siakam 40-1. Here's my case. I don't have a case. I think they're going to get like 4 to 6 threes each. Somebody might make some shots. Siakam's attempts were up both Oklahoma City games, so that intrigued me a little bit. Chet was getting 6 attempts his games against Indy last year. I like the idea of spacing him out that way. Nemhard, just kind of, if he's going to have the ball a lot for our assist thing, he probably is going to have a chance to get some shots up. It's not a strong case. The case is, I think this market's open. I get all 3 of those guys together for like a 10-1 position, basically, and just going to give myself a shot at multiple darts here. I don't know who it's going to be, so I just want a few bites at the apple.
Yeah, Joe, what are you looking at here in particular? You've got, I think, a game bet instead of a leader bet. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, so I'm looking at Shea 1-3 in each game at plus 130. He's had 1+ in 92% of games this season, and he's actually shot the 3 ball pretty well against Indiana. I think in large part because Indiana doesn't necessarily throw a ton of help defense. So if you're not throwing a ton of help defense, it's going to be a little bit hard to kind of press Shea on the 3-point line because like he's just going to hook your arm and you're going to get a foul and it's going to be a disaster. So he does get some of these opportunities off screens. They do tend to like, if you are honestly going to leave Shea open anywhere, it's probably on the 3-point line. If you're going to try to maybe sag off of him and try to protect the paint like a little bit. So 1-3 in each game. I just honestly think that this is just a spot where he's going to see a minutes uptick. There's enough pace. He's just going to get 1 per game at plus 130. And I don't mind it either because I think the series is short. So to me, this maybe is only a Shea 1-3 in 4 games or even 5 games. And I can totally live with that if this doesn't hit, even at like a lower number than I'd like for an in each game type of bet.
This is the Gilles Gallant at halftime live bet the under special here. So shout out to Gilles who got we managed to land both of them. We got the live under and the over that you and I talked through, Joe.
Yeah.
I just have a brief look here. I do think that one of the favorites, I don't mind playing at the start of the series. Again, not a hammer bet. Didn't come in with too many hammer bets on this in general. I like Neesmith. Doug Farmer over at Covers had that as a look. I think there's a lot to like here. Really loves those corner threes. One of the most efficient corner three shooters out there right now. OKC's going to be okay giving up looks from three. I think the Nembhard is the more interesting of the looks. I think if you look at, I think Carlisle is going to want to hit the variance button a lot. I think Indy's going to be taking a lot of threes. I do think the ball is going to be out of Halliburton's hand. He's probably the correct one to be, favored to be getting the most up. Based on the usage we have seen this season, it's at least an open door. So I think the Pacer side of this is where I want to be looking. And Neesmith, I think, is going to be on the court a lot, dealing with Shea. Now, tired legs dealing with Shea, foul trouble dealing with Shea. Those are all questions, which is fair. At 450, I think this is long enough to intrigue me, though. So that's my look for threes. Is there any other last shots you guys want to do, or should we, kind of do final, very brief thoughts and take it home from there?
Good.
Yeah.
Let's just do super quick here. Is there anything else? Are there any bets in general you want? And then is there a player you think this is a good series for or not a good series for in terms of people are looking at, game one, be under on this guy, over on this guy, stuff like that. Joe, I want to lead with you to start on either any final stray bets or any players you're high or low on in the series.
Yeah, so I think we're all kind of in alignment with this, but I think it's a great series for Chet. I think that he's a perfect 5 to play against this Indiana Pacers team. So I think he's going to see a ton of minutes. And I just think that Shea is going to crush. I think Shea is going to be unbelievable in this series. I don't think that Indiana is going to really have a good answer for him. I know that they have, Neesmith had some success and Nembhard had some success, especially in game 6 against Jalen Brunson, but Shea's a lot bigger than Jalen Brunson and he's a lot rangier. He's got a lot more options in terms of his game, like what he can do to finish at the rim. So I think that one fun bet is any player to score 22 points in a quarter at plus 400. It's really a Shea bet. That's what this is. It could be like a Neesmith bet if he wants to just make every 3 in the fourth quarter. But no, to me, this is a Shea bet. There's no real other way to bet this, but I think that it's a fun way to kind of capitalize on Shea playing the way his rotations are. I think that this is actually a better bet than for some other players. Some players, like some of the star players on a variety of different teams, they never play full quarters. They'll play 10 minutes at the most. Shea almost always plays the entire first quarter, and then a lot of times he plays the entire third quarter too. So for the way I'm looking at it, we're really getting, it has to happen in one of those. And if it is a tight game and he maybe plays the entire fourth quarter too, that's like a bonus almost. But I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Shea to do this. If it's a 4-game series, that's basically 8 chances to get it done. And we see Shea put up preposterous first quarters. And I think a lot of the conversation about Indiana has been, this offense is something else. When you play Indiana, that game 1, they're going to pop you right away. And I think they kind of got lucky in a way against New York. The way that New York just fell apart in game 1, because New York was winning the majority of the game. I think that Oklahoma City is going to come out and just punch Indiana in the face, in this game. And I think that Shea could honestly have a preposterous first quarter in game 1, just because they're not going to be able to deal with what they're dishing out. So I love this series for Shea. I think it's a great Shea series.
I love that you're not only making this bet, you're it's going to happen first quarter game 1. Now, unless the rules change, are they going to have 100-minute quarters? Because right now Shea is averaging 17 points per 100 possessions against Neesmith 1-on-1. So we getting 100-minute quarters here, or is no?
Look, he's still kicking ass against them this season. He's scoring over 30 points a game every game. So
that 45. I'll pause real quick. The 45 was no Neesmith. The 33 was Neesmith, and it was on 10 of 23.
Yeah,
and he did a lot of the scoring on Nembhard that game. I do think Neesmith is going to give him a tough time, but I think
yeah,
that's
and Neesmith's got the ankle. Neesmith has the ankle, so we don't totally know how healthy he even is, and
and that's a tiny sample that I quoted for sure.
Yeah,
besides, at the pace that this series plays out, 100 possessions might just be a quarter still.
Yeah, that actually might be.
We can still get it.
Brandon, do you have any final bets or players you really like or don't like this series?
Yeah, so Chet, I think, is the X factor. I was trying to think through as we're talking, if we're also high on Chet, is Chet a possible finals MVP? And the answer is no. No, he's not, because Shea is going to put up like 31, 7, and 8. And we know how the vote goes here. It goes to the guy that puts up the 50 PRA or whatever that is. So, yeah, two bets here. One book is offering the series leader points, rebounds, assists combo. You know I got to play that. So Shea points is a free space. Like, that's not even part of the bet. So Siakam rebounds, Shea assists is the one I'm going to go with. I know I gave out Siakam and Shea rebounds and Shea and Nembhard assists. You don't need Nembhard in the combo. He's already at some crazy long number as it is. And then, Shea to lead everything. Sure, I don't mind that. I think that's 28-1. Shea points, Siakam rebounds, Shea assists is 30-1. To me, those are my favorites. Like, those are who I actually would pick as favorites. Well, maybe Chet, but I'm greedy. Give me 30-1 on that one. And then my way of just betting Oklahoma City to smack in the series, as Joe would say, Oklahoma City to win any game by 25 or more, it's plus 250. This is what you have to bet. If you like the Thunder have this season, this playoffs, wins in the first round by 19 and 51. Second round, 32 and 43. Third round, 26 and 30. That's half their wins by 19 or more points.
Yeah.
We need a 25. They won in the regular season 16 times by 24 points or more. If you include the playoffs, over a quarter of their wins are by 24 points or more. We're getting 4 wins. We only need one of them to be 24 or more, 25 or more. I'm going to be real mad if we only get 24, but that's the number I had to include in my cutoff here. Pacers average playoff loss over 15 points a game. When they have lost, pretty handily a few times. They have each series, even in the finals so far, they've lost by 16, 17, and 22 once each series so far. So Oklahoma City is better than all the teams that they've lost those margins to. I already bet Thunder escalator for game 1. I bet them at like 20, 24, and whatever the highest I could find, 34 or something, a little nibble on the top escalator rung. Oklahoma City to win big. Shea. As far as other guys who I think this is a 4 and not 4 series, since I think we all know it's a Shea and Chet series. The one that I'll mention, I said before, I think TJ McConnell is going to get like wiped off the face of the earth. Yeah. I feel very bad for TJ McConnell in this series. We obviously don't think it's a big Hartenstein series. I honestly don't even think that that's really a Hartenstein diss. I think he's fine. I think he'll be fine in the series. I think he's going to play it off. I just think they're better with other lineups. I'm intrigued by Ben Mathurin. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to play anything yet, but Mathurin's the one guy in Indy that I think can really create a little bit on his own and particularly can get to the line. And that's an area that the Thunder do have a little bit of a foible there, fouling too often. That's the thing they do defensively. And Mathurin did get, when he got a chance against New York, did get to the line like 9 times in back-to-back games. I think Indy's going to struggle to find scoring options. So maybe they try some Mathurin later. Maybe that's like a 15 or 20 point escalator once we see him get some chances, but definitely not yet. So I'm just a guy I'm keeping my eye on. Jim, I know you had a couple of guys too for names that you're watching here.
Yeah, there's a couple of OKC guys, and it's so funny. Anyone listening to this podcast will be, I don't see how Jim is on the Indianapolis side of this. But I think this is a pretty interesting series for Wiggins and Kenrich Williams. Kenrich Williams potentially in particular. We talked about Jay as small ball, J-Dub small ball 5. I think Kenrich could play some small ball 5 as well. He's actually a pretty good rebounder for small ball 5 in general. And the flip side of the coin is it's not a Turner series. I think Turner is one that maybe on unders game 1. I do see that as a potential blowout for OKC, even though I do want to be on the Indy side of it, potentially waiting until after that blowout. Market moves even a little bit more. And I wanted to get your thoughts just really quickly, Brandon, on Toppin. I think Toppin's an interesting pivot. I can see it going both ways. He has one of the worst defensive ratings on the team in the postseason so far. That worries me because you mentioned in passing earlier this episode, I think we both think it's going to be a high scoring series. I don't. That is to me the path towards Indiana winning is it not being a high scoring series. I think the OKC offense is the one that I'm most off of market on. I think that there are questions there. And I think that if Indiana wants a chance, they kind of got to grind these games out. Toppin isn't like the grinded out type. So maybe he gets minutes in like high flying games, and then in the games that are a little bit more grimy, he's not. What are your thoughts on Toppin, just very briefly, and then we'll get out of here?
Yeah, I'm a little intrigued by Toppin. I actually included him with TJ McConnell in my initial, like, oh man, Indy's bench one-way guys are going to get blown off the map in this one. Matt pushed back a little bit that, like, okay, if Chet's going to be at the 5 a lot, who could physical him up a little bit? And I think Obi Toppin could be the one answer. Like, I don't think it's Miles Turner. Miles Turner is not Brooke Lopez.
Yeah.
Miles is doing the Brooke outside thing, but does not have the inside domination game right now. Obi, I think, could a little bit. Obi could just, like, muscle him up in the post. Another weakness Oklahoma City does have is offensive rebounding, and Indiana does not have a lot of guys that can do that. But Toppin is one guy that, like, as Carlisle, again, we're giving Carlisle credit. The thing we're not supposed to do, like, maybe he'll come up with this. Well, maybe they need some offensive rebounds. That's probably Toppin. I don't know that they have a lot of other options there. Even, too, Jarris Walker is out at least 2 games and probably just won't be able to play. I think that's a real loss for them. I think he would have actually been an important weapon in the series, and that's a little more room for Toppin. I'm intrigued by him just by way of, like, you know, he's like the 12th most important guy in the series. So relative intrigue. But I will say this. I'm intrigued enough that I genuinely looked for Obi Toppin rebounds series leader props because, you know, if it's in range of like 7 or 8, and if Toppin gets some offensive rebounds, you can get multiple in one possession, you know, the Angel Reese special. So why not? I didn't find it anywhere, but I gave it a look.
Obi's more likely to have more dunks than rebounds. Like that's realistically.
We're an hour and 10 in talking about Obi Toppin rebound leader. I think I got to get us out of here before Matt Mitchell kills us. So very quickly, do we have an absolute favorite angle? We did this, but maybe people are skipping around. So one more time, Brandon, you wrote it out, so I'm going to defer to you here. Talk through, we mostly overlap on these. Talk through our favorite best bets and best kind of angles from the pod as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, from all 3 of us, I think we all agreed our collective best bet, Halliburton under 9.5 assists. And then by way of kind of escalating that, both Shea and Nembhard for assist leader. Shea 5-1, Nembhard shop around and get the best number you can, something long. For me, beyond those 2, the other 2 best bets for me, J-Dub 4 assists every game, around 3-1. We owe him that one. He's going to hit it for us again. And then Shea versus Turner head-to-head on rebounding is my other best bet.
Love it. Joe, do you want to add any to the official best bets here? I'm rocking with what Brandon gave us.
I like that, and then I like the Shea over 5.5 rebounds per game.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, with that, thank you very much, David Payne, as always, producing this. Gifford Gould, YouTube squad. Thanks to Matt for letting us have some fun with this finals props forecast here. If you're listening to us on podcast, obviously rate and review on YouTube, like and subscribe. And otherwise, let's have a fun finals, guys. What do you say? Let's hit some bets. Let's hopefully have a long series. That's what I want. Just a long series that's close, and Indy gives them a real scare. So on that note, let's get out of here. Thank you guys for swinging by, and let's get buckets.